All right, in this example, we are going to talk about an issue related to databases, and that specifically the security of databases, and that is the SQL injection attack. So, in this example, what I've got is I've got a program or an application, right, that allows users to query a database to search basically for a last name. And I'm using the payroll data again that we talked about. And so I'll just run it and show you um, how it works. And so enter a last name for which to search, right? And so I've got to pick a last name. Let's go with Dalling right here, okay? So I type in the name that I want to search for, and it will spit out all of the information for that one person, okay? So you've probably used something like this before, where you go to like a terminal and you enter some stuff to search for and things like that, and it gives you some information from the database somewhere along the line. I'm sure you've probably done something like that. Okay, and so how this works is basically what I do here. I just get a scanner object and I prompt the user, hey, type the last name for which to search, and then I capture that as a string. Okay, no problem. And then what I do is I go on to prepare the query that I'm going to run based on what the user typed in. And right here is I am putting the name that the user typed in the query. Right? I have in here, I use string.format. I have select asterisk from payroll where last name equals, and then inside some quotes here, then I've do %s, right? And then that %s, I take the name and I put it in there. All right, and so it's this little bit right here that's going, when you do something like this, it is going to allow some attacks into the database. When you run this and you type a name that's not in the database, whatever, all right, you're going to see that that it doesn't return any results. Okay, so now watch what happens, and that's as it should, right? So now watch what happens here if I do the following. So I'm going to run this again. All right, and I'm going to enter a last name, and for the last name, I'm going to put single quote space or space single quote one single quote equals single quote one. So no way, right? Is there a last name in the database with that as the last name, right? Nothing in there. So it should return no results, just like this, right? All right, so now watch what happens when I press enter. All right, you can see what happened is it exposed the entire database. Every single piece of data in that table, right, has now been printed out to my screen. All right, so you can see that is a serious security flaw, right, that allows that to happen. Okay, that should not happen. So now the question is, what went on there? I typed in a bunch of nonsense, right? And that nonsense allowed me to get the data for everybody. I've got everybody's ID number. I've got everybody's email, how much they worked, their mail, their title, everything, first and last name, right? And you can imagine other things, right? Maybe it's not just enough getting the data out. Maybe somebody who has an axe to grind might delete all the data, right, in there. Okay, so so that's not good, right? And the thing is that what I did was I took user input and I put it directly into this query. Okay, you cannot do that. Okay, that is what allows me to expose all the things in the database. So let's just take a look at the query when it came out. So what I'm going to do is just add an extra line here, do system.out.println, and then my query. Okay, and then let's just return from there. Actually, I guess that's not going to work because it will give me unreachable code here. So yeah, the trouble is I don't want to. It'll spam out the screen with all these results. So let's just comment all this stuff out until we get to here. Okay. All right, and so I'm going to type the query again, or the input again, right? And that is single quote space or single quote 1, single quote equals single quote 1. Okay, and then I'm going to hit enter. All right, and now you can see what the format of my SQL query is, right? My SQL query is now select everything, all the fields, right? That's what that asterisk is, from payroll, from the table, where, and then this is the condition, all right? So the condition is that the last name is blank or 1 equals 1, okay? The string 1 equals 1. And so the last name is blank is always false, right? There are no records in here that have a blank last name, okay? No people with a blank last name. And then you can see I have this or, which is part of the SQL language itself. And then I have this statement right here, the string containing 1 equals the string containing 1. All right, so that is always true, right? So I have a statement that's false and a statement that's true, and it's joined by an or. So you should know from Java Programming 1 that statement evaluates to a true. All right, so it basically says this: select everything, all the fields from payroll where, and then this is a true statement. So what it's going to do is against every record, this is going to be true. It's going to look at the first record and say, does it satisfy this condition? And so it evaluates, SQL evaluates this and it returns a true, right? And so therefore it's going to show the first record and then it checks it for the second record. And because this is always true, right, because this is true, then it's going to return every single record out of there. Again, that is a serious, right, security issue. All you have to do is know one of those SQL injection strings and it's going to expose everything. So this, keeps going on and on. There's attackers come up with new strings like this to get information out of databases, and then those exploits get fixed. And so don't be doing this on public things like that. This one that I showed you is not going to work because it's one of the first ones and so well known. They're not going to do this. All right. So again, you got to be very careful about this sort of thing. What happened was that we allowed the user, right? We allowed the user to essentially change the format of our query, right? And we allowed this because we allowed the user to type in some things like these single quotes, right, that were part of the SQL language itself. So the user was able to alter our query effectively and expose all of the data in the database, all right? So there is a fix to this, right? So you should never, do this. And just for the examples that we do, it's fine. But if you're putting, data out into production and you expose people's data, private data, they're bad things are going to happen if you do that. So should always kind of keep this in mind. the way that it's normally done, and it's with something called a prepared statement in Java that I won't go into this video, but in the prepared Java, it basically sets up the query itself, right? And then gets the query all set up, and then inserts the stuff that the user entered in the place where it's supposed to go, and that prevents this type of SQL injection from happening. All right. So again, so this example really is just to kind of let you know, if you're writing applications and you have a bunch of data, then you need to be careful about how you let people enter these search strings. Okay. All right. So that is it for this video.